Hello, students. Today, we're going to start a really important and I think a very interesting chapter from your civics textbook, and that is political parties. You've definitely seen symbols just like these, haven't you? Painted on walls, stuck on posters, especially when elections are around the corner. You'll hear about them on the news, and I'm sure you've even heard them being discussed at home. You see, these symbols and flags, they're everywhere. In many ways, they are the most visible face of democracy for all of us. It's quite interesting, actually. For a lot of people, especially in the more remote parts of our country, if you ask them about the Constitution or the government, they might not know the details. But if you ask them about political parties, they will know. For most ordinary citizens, democracy is equal to political parties. So let's explore why that is. So to understand this topic properly, we're going to cover it in a very structured way. We'll start with the very basics, what a political party is. Then, we'll look at its different parts or components. We'll ask a very important question. Why are parties necessary at all? Then we'll look at a bit of a paradox before we summarize everything and I give you some guidance for your exams. Okay, let's dive right in. First things first, let us understand the formal meaning of a political party. So this is the textbook definition. At its core, a political party is a group of people and they have a shared goal. They agree on some common policies and programs, which they believe are for the good of the society. To put it very simply, their main objective is to contest and win elections so that they can form the government and then, well, run the government and implement their policies for the country. Now, because a party represents a specific part of society, it naturally involves something we call partisanship. So what is that? Well, it simply means having a strong commitment to one party's side. You tend to see issues from their point of view. And since different parties represent different parts of society with different ideas, of course there will be disagreement. But that's not a bad thing. In fact, it's a completely natural and even healthy part of a big, diverse democracy like ours. All right, next we look at the components. A political party isn't just one person or a small group at the top. It's actually made of three distinct groups of people who all play a role. So first, you have the leaders. These are the top decision makers you see on TV, the ones who create the policies and select the candidates. Then you have the active members. These are the party workers in your own locality, the people who organize meetings and rallies. And finally, you have the followers. These are the millions of ordinary citizens, the voters, maybe even your own family members who support the party and vote for it. All three are absolutely essential. Now we come to a very, very important question. Why do we need political parties at all? I mean, why are they so necessary? Well, we need them because they perform many essential functions that are crucial for a democracy to work. Let's look at what they do. First and foremost, they contest elections. They put forward different policies and programs, giving us voters a choice. The party that wins a majority, well, they form and run the government, and they play a decisive role in making laws for the country. Now, what about the parties that lose? They become the opposition, and their job is to question the government and hold it accountable. Parties also shape public opinion by highlighting issues. And finally, a very important function, they provide people access to government machinery. Just take a moment and think about it. Imagine a situation with no political parties. Every candidate in an election would be independent. They would be responsible only for their own small locality. Who then would be responsible for how the entire country is run? This line from your textbook explains it brilliantly. Without parties, a government might get formed, sure, but it would be very unstable. Its utility would be uncertain because there would be no one to unite all those independent members and take responsibility for the country as a whole. Parties are what bring these representatives together to form a stable and responsible government. Okay, let's move to something really interesting. Despite being so necessary, political parties are probably one of the most criticized institutions in our country. This creates a kind of paradox. Let's try to understand this. I'm sure you have heard people say things like this. Many people feel that parties are the main reason for the divisions in our society. There's a tendency to blame parties for almost everything that is wrong with our democracy. And you know what? The data actually supports this feeling. If you look at this chart, it shows that across South Asia, political parties are one of the least trusted institutions. Just look at that number. 43% of people say they have not much or no trust in them at all. That's a huge number, isn't it? So this leads us to a very interesting puzzle. If so many people don't trust parties, then why do we still see so much support for them? It seems like a confusion, right? Let's clear this up. Well, look at this graph. This is where it gets fascinating. The evidence shows that over the last few decades, the number of people in India who say they are close to a political party has actually been going up. So on one hand, there is low trust, but on the other hand, there is high participation. How is that possible? And here is the answer to that puzzle. Even if people are critical of parties in general, they still see them as essential. For an ordinary person, it is often much easier to approach a local party leader for help than to try and navigate a complicated government office. Parties provide that crucial link to government machinery and welfare schemes. That is why, despite the criticism, people still feel connected to them. Okay, so let's quickly summarize what we have learned today, and then I'll give you a little bit of guidance on how you should frame your answers for your exams. So these are the fundamental concepts to remember. First, parties are groups that contest elections to form a government. Second, they involve partisanship. Third, they have three components: the leaders, the active members, and the followers. And finally, and most importantly, they perform many essential functions, which is why they are so necessary for a representative democracy to function. Now, for your exams, let me give you a little guidance. If a question asks you to define a political party, make sure you start with the formal definition we discussed. Then, mention the three components clearly to make your answer complete. If the question is about the functions of a party, try to list at least 4, maybe 5 of the key functions and just write one line explaining each. If you do this, you're well on your way to writing a fantastic, high-scoring answer. And I will leave you with this final thought. Now that you understand what parties are and what they do you think a large modern democracy like India is really possible without them? Reflect on it, and do discuss it with your friends and teachers. Thank you.